Hello? Hello! Hi! Today I'm here with some legendary people. I'm so excited about this one. Media, of course, is close to my heart as editor of Snowboard International. And I am here today with Nidecker Tom, as I call you, director manager for Nidecker Snowboards, marketing supervisor for Blue Tomato, Nico Fave, legendary 32 rider, Pat Fava, and former method editor, photographer, now bombhole correspondent, Theo Ackworth.
Hello. I still like method, it's fine. We ended amicably.
And social media boss at Burton Snowboards, Caitlin Morin. Thank you so much for joining us. Give them a great welcome. So, media is a complex landscape nowadays. Of course, social media, the algorithms, it feels like everyone's been telling a different story. You know, you can be with your partner at home and you're scrolling and you see completely different messages and completely different news. So I think it would be naive to think that snowboarding is any different. And so the question today in this panel is like, who's telling the snowboard story? Who's actually selling authenticity and how that impacts brands and sales and the community? So I'm really excited about this one. Pat, let's start with you.
Oh shit.
If we go to this overarching question of like who's telling the snowboarding story, do you think people nowadays follow you because of your performance as a rider, or is it more of the worldview? Like, how do people interact to you on social media?
I don't know how they interact with me, but I just think of people I follow, and it's personality as well as performance. You know, I think if there's someone that's really good and there's no personality shown, it's hard to relate to that person. Whereas when someone kind of has both, it's a lot easier to be inspired to either buy something they're riding or wearing or be interested in that. So I think it's personality is a huge part of it.
So nowadays as a rider, you're not only performing on your snowboard and doing what you love, but you also have to build your personal brand. What's your personal approach to that?
I guess being authentic is probably the best way to do it. Just like what you like and continue to do that.
What does being authentic mean, though?
I think just loving what you love and staying true to that, you know? Not, being inspired by others, stuff you like. That's basically it. Simple, you know?
I think it's easier said than done.
That's very true, yes.
But I mean, Caitlin, you're managing the socials for Burton Snowboards, and you have to balance that authenticity, but of course you need to chase some results. How do you balance that mechanism in the algorithms to make sure the brand comes across authentically but still hits those KPIs?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first shift is trying not to treat the algorithm like it's the enemy. It's pretty easy to fall into this trap of being like the algorithm is kind of the issue, but that's the one constant that we can kind of rely on. That's the environment that we exist in. And you can build, algorithm-proof strategies. You don't need to be constantly out there like chasing these trends. But I guess from our side, it's, how do we be authentic despite the algorithm? And, how do we show up without losing who we are as a brand? And practically that means that we have a bunch of different content types that we test and we try. Some posts that we do are kind of built to perform on the platform, various reels, but we constantly test and try and show up consistently on Burton. But the guardrail that we always fall back on is the brand. Okay, so does it make sense for the brand for us to post this? So if we ever thinking that we need to post X to achieve Y, then that's when I usually think that the authenticity tends to break. If we're just trying to reach those high level numbers without really putting the thought behind it or what this means to the brand, and then I think that's where the authenticity tends to break. So I guess what we try and build is that long-term trust through our storytelling rather than getting those like short-term wins.
And I'm sure, Tom, you can add onto that investment in the long-term credibility and authenticity, because that's expensive. So how do you manage that, like the investment in the long-term credibility versus the short-term return?
Yeah, I think Caitlin hit a bunch of the key points on that one. It's all about long-term strategy and making sure that we're creating a cohesive story, which isn't just kind of the peaks and troughs of getting that quick hit dopamine fix for people, because that works in the short term, but definitely a lot in the long term. We just hit a follower milestone, and we were like laser focused on trying to get to that milestone, and that's what everybody was talking about. And now that's thankfully behind us. We can concentrate on just doing what we think works the best and what we think represents the brand the best, instead of just going for more and more followers with every giveaways every week and competitions every week and stuff, which gets kind of tiring if you're tuned. If someone who's following us on one of the social channels, if they're just getting that constant barrage of follower bait, then that goes away fast. You build credibility by creating beauty and showcasing the beauty in the best way you can.
And how does credibility convert, though? How, you're talking about hitting a follower milestone. Do you see any translation to that onto sales, or how do you even approach that?
Does credibility convert? Yes, absolutely. I think to answer that question, you could flip it on its head and go, brands which don't have the credibility have trouble converting and being around in our ecosystem for a long time, right? Like if they're not paying the riders, if they're not creating the stories, they're not telling the stories, creating good products, doing it the right way, it turns into a quick fix, and those brands will be in the rearview mirror much quicker than they'll be ahead of us. Credibility does convert, absolutely. And going back to what Pat said, you have to just kind of go back into what you really are, right? Look at what it is, which are the tenets of your brand. Look at what makes you tick. Look at kind of personalizing your brand, coming across as a personality, people by people. So the more things you can do right as a brand, and more values that you can transmit in an authentic way, the better.
Yeah, it's the long run, right? It's that marathon run that we're doing. But at the same time, I mean, Theo, you come from print media. That's the slow media, right? Like the one that's consumed in time, and you live on your coffee table.
And the anti-social ones.
Yeah, and now it's just fast. What's your take on that? Like, what do you think we're missing when we trade one for the other?
I mean, I think it's about balance, really, and just doing stuff that you're kind of stoked on, and finding a way to, instead of feel like you're just being swept along in this uncontrollable social media thing, that you control how you use it, and that you don't stress about what other people are doing, and you just do what you want to do with it. I'll use Jenkem magazine, I call them magazine, as an example in skating. They don't really promote skateboarding. Their Instagram doesn't have skateboarding on it. It just has all the other interesting shit around skateboarding. And they're, in my eyes, the most interesting thing that happens in skating right now, because they just did what they wanted. So they kept that balance and do interesting pieces for social media, and give it its time, but also focus occasionally on a print project. But another example of pro snowboarders, I know some of them who get so stressed out about how they handle their Instagram, and then others who just post one clip once a week, maybe the same day if they're that organized, and they're way more valuable to their brands. They're way more interesting to actually see what they're doing, because they don't overthink it. It's a tool, put something out, don't worry about it. And they're usually the ones who have a way happier outlook on it, and probably are more just interesting to see what they're up to. So I don't know if that ramble is kind of useful in any way.
It makes sense. What I'm hearing is that it's all about the storytelling, the story you're actually telling, and using the platform, whatever it is, to make sure you tell that story, not in a fast way, but in an authentic way. And Nico, how do you use that storytelling tool to actually talk to your customers?
Yeah, so from a shop's perspective, obviously we have a bit of a different approach than the brand can have. We do have a brand story to tell, and we do have kind of values we want to promote. But on the other hand, we have to sell the product from all of these different brands, some of them are promoting or giving us great content that we can share, and for others we have to produce it ourselves. And we use our team writers for that, we use the brand's team writers for that, but also our employees, because we want to show that we know what we are selling and we use it ourselves, and we know our shit. So product reviews that come from our employees are some of the best performing content for us. And we do the same thing with team riders, but all the other brands that have these team riders do that as well. And we are the only ones that can do that with our employees and show that side of the story as well.
I mean, it sounds like team riders are definitely still a very important tool to all the brands and shops. I'm curious, Pat, do you ever get people reach out to you and ask about product?
Yeah, I would say in the wintertime it's pretty constant, and I enjoy giving feedback on stuff, you know. The more I dive into it too, the more fun it gets, so.
Oh, wow. I am actually surprised. I didn't realize that riders, you know, that they got approached for gear. That's amazing to hear.
Yeah, it's incredible.
What's the dumbest thing someone's asked you about a product?
Oh, yeah.
Oh man, like, I don't know. They'll see my post, you know, with the board that just came out, and they're like, "When does this come out?" I'm like, I just told you, it just came out.
Read the caption,
Yeah.
people.
The stance is always a good one too. What stance do you ride? You know.
I don't even know what stance I ride.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't know. 3-3. That's good.
What does, maybe this is more for you, Nico, but what do you think signals trust? Like the readiness when people are, you know, what's the interaction that you see and then you see the purchase going through?
Honestly, exactly these questions, because if a person is interested in such details like what stance is this guy riding, because I really want to ride like him or aspire to ride like him, so I would set up my board, my bindings exactly the same way, still not be able to do it, but at least try to. And those are signals like comments on like specific questions, and also messages of like, would you rather say this board works for me or this board? They don't translate directly into sales, but they're a very strong signal that this person is pretty far along the road to buying. And hopefully, if you give them a good experience with your answers, then that will ultimately, hopefully, lead to a sale in your shop.
I'm hearing that customer support or actually these personal interactions are key. And I guess that you have a big part on handling those interactions when it comes to social media for Burton. How do you handle those personal one-on-one conversations?
Well, I mean, I don't personally handle the one-on-one conversations. I have a team that manages that, but it's just responding to comments with trying to get the customer to, like what Nico said, that the customer, if they're at that point asking those questions, they're quite far along in the process to wanting to buy, and it's just about building that trust in that product and really trying to, you know, build the trust to be able to convert the products in the first place.
Yeah, I feel like often we forget that social media is not a one-way, it's a two-way
It's
conversation.
transactional, yeah.
Exactly.
And I think the brands that, you know, show up, I know the Blue Tomato as well are very good at like responding to comments, and those are the brands that I think do the best when it comes to converting.
One funny point about transactional comments on Instagram. I never really checked the social media when I did Method. I happily just kept it away, but once I did, and someone had written a message saying they really wanted to go snowboarding, but they didn't have the money to do it, and asked if we could Venmo them $1,000 so they could go snowboarding.
Did you do it?
No, I suggested they sell something green and lovely. I mean, you know, if you're going to pitch something interesting, not just, can I have $1,000 to go snowboarding? So I, you know, thought it would be fun, but get all sorts. Check the DMs sometimes. If you're a brand, a lot of brands don't check them, but check them. They're quite funny.
But Theo, now you're putting a lot of content out of your experience as a photographer and like the process behind it, and you're kind of having this conversation out into the world with your own thoughts. I feel like sometimes it's really fun and really interesting. What's the response on that? What are people coming back to you with?
I mean, they seem to enjoy it, whatever it is that I'm doing with these 360 cameras, just trying to show the process. Because if you only show the perfect end result, that's the, you know, the 1% of what you do, then the rest is boring, is not good. I don't know. So the rest is really interesting. Same for everyone, for riders, for brands, to tell the story that leads up to your perfect end moment, I think is really valuable. People are pretty over seeing perfect produced commercials and clips. Though I don't know if the world needs more snowboarding videos.
Yeah, that's the quick exchange we had
like
this morning.
We need some, but also tell the other story around it. And that's what I'm trying to do a bit, and it's fun. For bottom line, it's fun for me. I don't know if it works, but I'm enjoying it. So that's it.
I mean, you were saying this morning at breakfast that, you're bored of watching snowboard movies that only show tricks. Sorry, Pat.
Alles gut.
He has personality too, so it's fine. Personality is important in a movie. If it's just tricks, very boring. If you get personality, way better.
I think that's what you're really good at as well, is showing the personality of the riders. Like when we worked with Theo at Stubai at Prime Park, because we wanted to try and show, the more honest side behind what goes into these big sessions, and I think you do a really good job of showing like the riders' personalities, and it's interesting for brands as well. I think it's really good to see that these World Cup riders, these big air riders, they are people as well with personalities, and you do a really good job of showing that. And congrats.
Thanks, Kelly. It's fun. You learn. You watch a video, you think you know someone a bit from a movie, but you actually probably don't. You spend even 5 minutes talking to them, you realize they're kind of goofy, or that Anna Gasser is really sassy. It isn't just perfectly media trained. She is kind of bitchy, and it's really funny. And getting under that surface a little bit is, it's just. It sounds stupid. It's just kind of human. Just talk to people and find out who they are. Yeah.
And Tom, I mean, you're in charge of like building a team, and sponsoring people costs money. So have you ever felt like you sponsored people that felt right for the team but actually didn't convert the way you wanted, or the other way around, like you hesitated on welcoming someone in the team but then you were happily surprised how they interacted with the community and how they impacted the brand?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So we've reorganized some of the top-level marketing and sports marketing roles at the moment. So for a perfect answer for that, you'd have to ask Tom Pelly, who's our global sports marketing manager. He's in San Francisco, so if we wait a few hours, we could maybe call and he'll wake up. But I think the best example of that is someone like Craig McMorris, who we put on the brand a year and a half ago. And before Craig joined, I was a big fan of what he did, but I wasn't convinced he'd be a good fit for the brand. And I mean, he'd been riding other brands for years, and almost his DNA was kind of with other brands. And since coming onto Nidecker, we found that he was not just a consummate professional, he's great on media, he's great on commentary, he's really well connected and just a likable guy who will get on the plane and fly across the world to do a random rail comp in some random city at the drop of a hat. He is someone who's proved really easy to work with, despite this huge Craig McMorris aura that he has. So that's when it went well for us. We made a mistake 3-4 years ago when the whole snowboard influencer thing was happening. We looked at that and we said, okay, as the brand where it was then, that was where our audience was. It was not listening to team riders as much as it was listening to influencers. So we started playing the influencer card a little, and maybe flowing some product to people who lacked the authenticity but did have the audience. And then very quickly it became apparent that this was a square peg in a round hole. It wasn't going to fit. It wasn't going to work. So we backed off respectfully and politely and said, okay, you guys keep doing you. We're going to go this direction, which is the direction we know, which is letting the team riders tell the story and reinvesting and doubling down on the athlete program.
Thank you so much for acknowledging that. I feel that that's a huge thing to say out loud, and of course we see everyone going through down the influencer path, and it's huge. Like, all of the brands do it, have done it, do it in some capacity. So for you to come up here and admit that it wasn't great for you, that's huge, and thank you. And I mean, to you, like having marketing managers say, oh, we went that down path, but now we realize that riders are the ones that should have the bigger voice, and we should listen to. How does that feel, and how do you interact with your sponsors in that capacity?
Well, I think snowboarders have always been the selling point, riders, team riders, influencers, all that shit is new, and it's pretty whack. Back in the day, it's videos, you watch a video over and over, VHS. I'm sure all you guys still listen to the songs from your favorite videos. Nobody's remembering an influencer video. It just doesn't stick with you, it's not personable. So back in the days, making videos for a living, and now it's like you can be a fucking YouTuber influencer, which is also important too, because it does sell gear for brands. But I think support the team riders for sure and put that first, because that's kind of how it's always been, the coolest part.
Okay, I'm going to follow up on this. Nico, have you found that the influencers have had a positive effect in your sales?
Short answer, no. Long answer, it's a super complicated topic. So like Tom said, it's an authenticity thing. So there are people who could be considered influencers who would have been labeled a regular team rider years ago. And they are doing a great job in promoting products, promoting snowboarding to people that are not in this like core group of riders that watch the videos, that know all their favorite riders, that listen to the songs. Because there's, let's face it, a lot of customers who ride maybe a week, a year, even less, and these people are making the brands probably more money than any core rider will ever do. And
Guaranteed, 100%.
yeah, it's a hard truth, but we have to tell it. And influencers can get people into snowboarding, but they are not the people that will make them stay. And those are the points where like proper team riders and proper like authentic people come in, and those are not the influencers.
Caitlin, from the hardcore social media perspective, what's your take on influencers?
I think I pretty much agree with what you just said. Like the point of like they might bring new people into the sport, but they're not the people that make them stay. It's also again a fine line, like you said, of like listen to the riders first, but then again, the reach that the influencers can provide is probably pumping a lot of money back into the brand that can then be moved on to supporting the team riders on various projects. I think, like in terms of Burton, it goes back to that we have those brand, like those guardrails, and if we do use influencers, which is something that we have dabbled in, it's more, does this person make sense for the brand, and will they actually, bring in the right people for us? And yeah, I mean, I'm all for riders first, supporting the riders, but I work in marketing and I'm realistic, and we need to reach new audiences to be able to exist. And unfortunately, I say unfortunately, we are in an influencer world, we're in a social media space, but it can be done properly, it can be managed well, but yeah.
I think that we're having the polarity in this part of the conversation is between team riders and influencers. But we did a ton of user journey analysis and found out that we're all really lucky to be here testing snowboards and getting to try a bunch of different products, but not everybody has that luxury, okay? We found that over 85% of snowboards are bought blind, as in the person's never ridden that board before, and they're going on the marketing and the gut feeling and the storytelling behind the product in order to buy it, right? Imagine if the same thing was cars, yeah? Like you go into the garage to buy a car, and okay, the car's $60,000, and can I try it? No. There would be a problem in that industry, right? So in snowboarding, since so many people don't get to ride the stuff before they buy it, we rely on the OG influencers, which are the shop kids, okay? And the more you can talk to somebody in a wholesale space, educate them properly, explain what your brand is about, make the tech stories simple and easy to follow, make it obvious on the product, like do as much like really user-friendly retail marketing as you can in terms of like the silent salesman sticker, the clinics, the podcast series that we do are about educating shop kids and how to sell the product and make sure the right people are buying the product so they'll enjoy it and have a positive experience. That investment is super valid and super important in our day and age, I think.
Nico, do you second that? And how are you handling that?
100%. I mean, we are a shop, so we have to do exactly that. We have to have the people that sell the product know what they are selling. And obviously with the many shops that we have, it's a bit more difficult to get that knowledge to all of these people. But we are definitely trying hard to do that, especially in the shops that are like close to mountains, and there we have great staff who know exactly what the customer needs if he is asking for it or they are asking for it.
As an online retailer, though, how do you bridge that gap when you sell online?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we, as I said before, like we do like these product review videos, for example, that really gain traction, which sort of is our approach to trying to explain the same that a shop kid would do on site online. And we also do like buyer's guides. We have like a lot of explanatory content that we try to shoot out there. And yeah, we're also like every year trying to raise the bar on that and get more informational content out there. Like the whole fast entry topic obviously was a great step into that. So we had like a proper production with all these systems that we sell. And those videos, like I feel, brought a lot of people onto these systems as well.
As a storytellers, I mean, I talk about myself as well. You know, we're professional storytellers, and it's very easy to talk about someone's story. It's very easy to listen to what they have to tell. But when you have to reach that onto product, it's not that easy sometimes because it's a very, you know, it can feel like a hard sell. So how do you use storytelling for the actual product without making it feel hardcore sales stories?
You're looking at me, Alba.
Well, I'm looking at you two. I guess you're the two most adequate persons to respond to this one.
Okay. Product. People buy different products in different ways, right? So boots and bindings, people tend to buy with their head. Is the boot comfortable? Does the binding fit the need I have? And we all know what the world of bindings is doing at the moment. When it comes to snowboarders, something completely different. People don't buy snowboards with their head, they buy them with their heart, okay? So it's about brand and it's about graphics over performance. That's what we found in our user journey study. People, I remember before I was at Nidecker, I was working in a shop, 0G in Chamonix. I spent 15 years there. So someone would come in and say, right, I'm looking for this board. Okay, I want it to be great in free riding. I want it to carve like this. I want it to kind of have this amount of pop. I want it to do these many things. Okay, and you would pull out the perfect snowboard for that customer and put it on the ground and go, "That's you, baby. You're sorted. You buy this thing and you're happy." And the guy would look at you and go, "How about this one?" It's the same color as my favorite football team. So that's the struggle with snowboards. So the answer to that as a brand is, yeah, we're making big investments back into the brand. And how do you do that? By creating authentic stories that people buy into, by taking care of every single touch point that a customer has with the brand. When you're a brand, every single thing you do, whether it's the color of the backdrop on your trade show booth or the size of the serif on your font, every single detail about the brand will shape someone's perception of that brand and increase or decrease the likelihood of buying a board from that brand as a result of it.
Profiling, one-on-one profiling, you're that target. I feel like as a snowboarding community, whether it's a magazine, social media, brand, shop, we produce a lot of content. But I often wonder, like, is it too much noise? Are we talking to ourselves? Like, is it all needed? Should we do less and better? Or Theo, what's your take on that one?
Kind of touched on it earlier, mentioning how Jenkem does their social media. But yeah, there's a lot of noise out there. And it's hard to make stuff that kind of cuts through that. I think it's natural to think we have to keep up and do more of our own stuff. But, you know, it's all kind of a balance, really. Participate, but on your own terms.
But also, it feels like we talk to ourselves. It's like our own bubble. How can we reach further without hammering a lot of content down?
I mean, I think if you just kind of look outside on the hill, obviously, maybe not the best example here because there's so many industry people here, but we are the tiniest. I talked to you about it earlier, Pablo. We're like the little 1% bubble in an already tiny bubble. And when you look out on the hill and you see what people are riding, how they're experiencing snowboarding, you realize that so much of what we put a lot of time, effort, and money into doing, they have no idea about. But what do they have an idea about? Having a good time, riding product that they're stoked on, enjoying their day, sharing an experience with someone. They're like, yo, go right over there. There's a fun little thing or whatever. So I think trying to look at how other people experience it that aren't in our little world is kind of important, and just not thinking that we're all the most important people in the world. I don't know if Fridge is here, but I think he once described the snowboarding community to me, especially the people who really are in it, he described it as a circle jerk with people talking about lip slides and how their pants fit. Yeah. Kind of true. It's kind of, pretty straight to the point, but sometimes we just get way too focused on our shit and forget that the people out there actually buying stuff and experiencing snowboarding that let us do this need attention as well. And it's usually pretty simple.
Yeah, I mean, especially from a shop's perspective, we see what kind of people come into our shops, right? And probably 80% of them have no idea what a lip slide is. So
And don't care.
if we tell them, here, this is how you do a lip slide, they're like, okay, cool, but how does it work on a slope? And that's exactly what, like, I'm totally second what you just said, because we are in a very tiny bubble and we have to look out of that to really find or reach new people as well and new customers. And to bring more people into snowboarding, we have to be way more open and not gatekeeping anything.
So it's a missed opportunity. What are we missing? What can we do better?
Okay, big topic. If you are trying to grow snowboarding, which is what we're all trying to do, then the only way to do that is to turn non-snowboarders into snowboarders, okay? And there's a couple of ways to do that. One of our brand strategies is if snowboarding grows, then we grow. So when we reinvest into growing snowboarding, that's how we help. One tenet that we experienced this winter was by taking the spectacle of snowboarding to people who wouldn't have otherwise seen it. And that's why we sponsored the Rock'n'Rail Tour, the European street style series that happened this winter. It's not because I'm trying to turn Nidecker into a street rail brand, far from it. But when you see the rail set up in a major population center like The Hague or like Innsbruck or Budapest. Yeah, the Budapest one was so sick. And, okay, you've got a bunch of snowboarders who come to watch the riders perform the spectacle there. But more importantly, you've got kids between the ages of 5 and 11 who are walking past with their mum and dad because they're going ice skating or hitting the Christmas market. And they see a rider doing something incredible on the street setup, and they stop with their mouth open and they point and say, "Mum, I want to do that." So it's by taking snowboarding to people who wouldn't have otherwise seen it and showing it to them live, what we do, that spectacle and the show, what the riders perform, is one way of growing snowboarding, which we're investing into.
That's very much a boots on the ground approach. And then what does the media role or social media role would have in this?
I mean, you basically hit it on the head. I mean, we've all got favorite videos, things that mean a lot to us. But the best memories, I think, of snowboarding were actually doing it, or going to an event, or seeing something, or actually experiencing something. So I think using media in many forms to help communicate things that are actually happening in the physical world, not just print or online, and helping to just get people to go snowboarding. Maybe I don't know how you do that.
It's
not
funny,
a
isn't it? Because
strategist,
you're
but-
bringing it back to experience. Like we're talking about it, we're communicating about these experiences, but what really makes us come together is actually living that thing together. And I think since COVID, we kind of all got a bit weird, and everything kind of dissolved a little bit, and those experiences dimmed down a little. And now I really feel that we're all coming back together, all these rail events in the cities, from Rock'n'Rail to DIYX to heavy metal, etc., have been, in the snowboarding community, a really great tool to bring us all together again and experiencing and opening these doors. But also being able to go back out there, it's bringing new stories. But I feel like the story is evolving. There's a lot more stories and that diversity of stories. And I just wonder what's next. What's next for the media landscape and the marketing landscape on how utilizing those stories and how to make it better to actually align. I feel sometimes there's a misalignment because we're talking about bringing new people into the sport. But is it real though? Like, it's becoming more and more expensive. It's becoming harder with climate change. Conditions are changing. So I wonder what's next and how we battle those disconnects from the brand perspective and the media perspective. Or even for you, Pat, how do you feel that the new generation of riders, I mean, you're pretty young yourself, but you already see some young guns coming after you. How do you think their experience is going to differ from yours, and how can you hold them forward?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I think it's overall, it's looking good, I would say. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of money, I feel like, and events going on. And yeah, especially the talent, I think the talent is the main thing, and that's only on a progressive, insane trend right now. So I feel like with that, everything else will follow, and we got to make sure to set everything up for the future generation. to flourish in this community. And I feel like we gotta maybe start cloud seeding or something to make it snow more. Maybe that'll help. I don't know. Figuring out some way to fix the weather.
Yeah.
What do you think's next, Dom?
Okay, so as Pat was talking, I was thinking about how to remove obstructions to make people do something they want to do, right? I.e. go snowboarding. One of the biggest is, at the moment, is the price of lift tickets, which is outrageous. That I think is gonna, it's got so mental that I think it's gonna stabilize and come back down, because hopefully we're gonna see a drop off in skier days because the prices are too high, and then they'll realize that they have to come down to a level which is somewhere looking like vaguely sustainable. But I think it's also going to provide opportunity in resorts which don't have gigantic infrastructure to pay for and who aren't run by soul-sucking corporations, who can charge 20 or 30 bucks for a lift ticket and have a rope tow and have a jump line and a couple of down rails, and you can just go and do it. Like Woody's is the best example, right? Like that place is so sick and it's really not expensive at all and it's packed the whole time. I think that the resort model at the moment will encourage more and more places like that to crop up. I mean, I'm lucky enough to live in a resort, and my kids are lucky enough to go snowboard in the garden. And every time it snows, they're out there with my shovels, like building little jumps and like jibbing trees and stuff. And I think that's really cool. But the taking away the obstructions to something is how you get people to do it more.
I think like the brands have a collective responsibility to approach this topic as well. I mean, like, Ivan, correct me if I'm wrong, but like Larks have a park price ticket, so you can go and pay just to ride the park and lap the park all day, which is something that perhaps Penkin Park don't offer, or something else. And it's, you know, trying to lower that barrier to get park riders into the park. And in the US, I know that they're building like these free parks in the cities, like these hype parks, and I think that where you can ride these places for free. And it is just about lowering those barriers, but it's the brands having the conversations with the resorts to be like, hey, you know, you're kind of fucking it up. There's all these kids that are like so hyped on riding, and the level is so big, and women are just killing it, and there's so many women on riding the park. But then you show up to Penkin, for example, and you have to pay 70 bucks to 80 bucks just to go and lap the park on a busy day in January. It's, who can do that? Like, what kids can do that? So, yeah, it is the brand's responsibility to speak to people and, yeah, open it up.
Very well said.
Yeah. Fuck, shit.
Well, what I'm hearing here is that there's not just one story, and that there's many, and that it's our responsibility to give space to all of the stories, give love, and keep them authentic. I'm mindful of everyone's time. Everybody's tired. It's the last day, but I want to make sure we have space to see if there's any questions, because, you know, it's a really great panel here, so please take the advantage. Anyone?
All right, thank you so much. I'm thinking a little bit about what you said about making free parks. So, Blue Tomato and Nidecker, have you any project in a pipeline to contribute to the community by maybe working with, sorry, I'm wearing glasses, but I'm light sensitive, working with maybe the government to do some sort of rising up to snowboarding by making free parks and supporting with gear? Do you have any plans for that?
Well, from our side, I got to be honest, there's nothing like concretely planned, especially like with government relations or anything. We do have a couple of programs where we like support especially kids events and all that to get especially kids on board. We support a lot of other events as well, and parks, etc., but nothing in that specific direction to make it more accessible or cheaper. But it's definitely a great place to start.
Yeah,
You've got to go to the government, Nico.
Nothing yet.
Not yet, but it's always out there. And as I said before, like, we're supporting kids events and trying to get people on the mountain cheaper at least, but it's nothing where we talk to government officials or anything that.
So we have a cool community program that we support in Geneva. We're based in Rolle, which is between Geneva and Lausanne on the north shore of Lac Léman. and it's called Rookie Slash. Okay, and it's a really cool program that integrates recently arrived refugees into Switzerland into the local community through the use of outdoor sports. Okay, so Rookie Slash is an organization we support through our membership of 1% for the Planet. Every year they send up to 250 recently arrived refugees to climb, to bike, to snowboard, just get into the outdoors and do stuff. And it's by providing gear and cold hard cash to programs like that that you're able to start building community in some sort of small niche way, but it's a way that we saw was there and it's a need that needed to be met. So we're really stoked to participate in that program, for example. But yeah, we can always do more.
And yeah, I feel like it's easier said than done as well. So there is places popping up in the States, you know, free. We got Bone Zone and all these places, but there still has to be budget for shapers, building rails, maintaining those things, and just in case people get hurt as well, you know. So it is easier said than done to create those things, but I believe brands should be spending money on that because that is something large for the future generation. Is affordable, it's fun, community.
Yeah, and I think as media, we also have the responsibility to make sure we amplify those stories and the things that are happening, the projects that are working and doing well into the community. And now, especially going into an Olympic cycle, that all that focus shifts massively into another direction. I think it's our responsibility from the communication side to make sure that we continue to put light on those projects and light on those initiatives, and you know, because it's an ecosystem. We help each other and we elevate each other. So I think it's really important that we keep putting pressure on that. Anyone else has a question? Otherwise, I will thank you all for your time. This was amazing, and I hope it inspires a lot more conversations behind doors, open doors. But keep having these conversations, and let's keep this collaboration together. And this is an invitation also for everyone at Shops First Try and in the industry to keep talking to each other, keep collaborating with each other, because we need it. We need to keep this stoke high and protect it and just grow it.
Keep asking the questions, Alba.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alba.
Thank you for having us.